Hello friends, welcome to a new episode of Drishti IAS Editorial Analysis. In this editorial analysis, we do three things. First of all, we link the editorial to the UPSC Civil Services exam syllabus. Secondly, we understand the key points of the editorial. And thirdly, we also look at some of the key concepts that have come in the editorial and are important from exam point of view. So let us begin today's editorial analysis. Today's editorial has been taken from the Hindu and it has appeared on 1st of May. The title of the editorial is Religion and Freedom. It says that India must protect its freedoms and come down heavily on religious violence. Now let us look at its linkage with the syllabus. Links directly with GS paper 2, where we have Indian Constitution. And we know that one of the founding principles of India's Constitution is secularism, respect for all religions. Also, this editorial links with international relations part because it is based on the report submitted by US Commission on International Religious Freedom. Now let us look at the key points of the editorial. The editorial starts by saying that India must protect its freedoms and come down heavily on religious violence. It further says that religious freedom is of paramount importance, not because it is about religion, but because it is about freedom. And this is a very handy statement for using it in essay writing. So whenever you come across such statements, which can be used directly in your answer writing or in essay writing, then you must note them and keep revising them so you are able to remember these statements and use them to your advantage. Now the editorial talks about the USCIRF annual report. So what is USCIRF? We'll look about this in more detail in the key concepts. So USCIRF stands for US Commission on International Religious Freedom and it was established in 1998 by the enactment of International Religious Freedom Act IRFA by US. So what the USCIRF has done recently in its 2020 report, that it has designated India as a country of particular concern, which is their lowest ranking. And this it has done after 2004. So the last time India had such a poor ranking in its report was in 2004. But the editorial says that this is not surprising because USCIRF has been consistently criticizing what the Indian government has been doing and various other incidents of communal violence that have taken place in India. So the designation of India as a country of particular concern does not come as a surprise. Now understandably, the Indian government has not just rejected the report, but it has also ridiculed the USCIRF. So Indian government has reacted very sharply to this designation by this USCIRF, and in return India has said that it also designates USCIRF as a organization of particular concern for India. This USCIRF, it is an autonomous bipartisan commission, but its influence over any US executive action is limited. It is not that it has very high powers or it can very strongly influence the US government's actions. But editorial says that whether or not the US government acts on its recommendation to impose targeted sanction depends entirely on America's strategic interests. So this has been very common that US has been always guided in its foreign policy by its strategic interests. And though US talks about freedom, democracy, tolerance and transparency, but it has always used these tools for its strategic pursuits. US has supported various oppressive regimes all over the world whenever it has suited its strategic interests. So it is not that US will take any action based on USCIRF's recommendation alone. So it will consider its strategic aims. Now what has been India's approach? India has also been selectively considering the global opinions on itself and embracing and celebrating laudatory ones and rejecting the inconvenient ones. It means that like other countries, India has also been very selective in its approach towards these kind of reports and how they perceive India. And the editorial cites this ease of doing business ranking by the World Bank as a case in point. So this ease of doing business report by the World Bank and India's ranking, this is also very important from exam point of view. It can be directly asked in prelims and also the parameters etc. can also be asked in a mains. India has been making all out effort to improve its ease of doing business ranking. When it is suiting India's interest, India has been making all the efforts and rejecting reports by certain other agencies when these agencies have been critical of Indian government or India in general. Editorial further says that many of these reports have a circulatory life. Circulatory life means that one organization comes up with a report and after a few days or months, some other organization picks up some important information from that report. So this keeps circulating. So whenever a negative comment goes out in the international media, then it damages the reputation of the country. So that is what is meant by this. So it says that the USCIRF report has quoted UN Special Rapporteur to buttress its point on the discriminatory outcome of the National Register of Citizens in Assam. So this NRC exercise in Assam, which we'll see in detail in the key concept section, this also has been a point of concern where the UN Special Rapporteur has said that this NRC exercise has been largely discriminatory. So this has been again quoted by USCIRF in its report to further strengthen its point that yes, India has not been fair to its minorities. Editorial further says that overall such reports contribute to the construction of an image of a country. So that is important. So these reports ultimately create an image of the country in the international arena. And the Indian government is also cognizant of this pattern. So Indian government also takes note of this, that whatever these international reports say, they do affect the perception of the country in the wider world. And in March 2020, the Indian government has told Nithyayog. Nithyayog is also a very important institution, and we'll see it in the key concept section today. So the government has asked Nithyayog to track 32 global indices and engage with the bodies that measure them to advance reforms and growth. So the Indian government is also cognizant that sometimes these reports are pointing out certain things from which Indian government agencies can learn and improve their processes. Editorial further says that India considers itself as a multi-religious democracy, which is very true, and an adherent to global norms of rule of law. So India values both these things, that it is a multi-religious democracy and it adheres to the global rule of law. And it also aspires to be on the table of global rule making. So India wants to play a bigger role on the world stage as well. And for a country with such stated ambitions, its record on religious freedom, as reflected through the events of the last 1 year, is deeply disturbing or disconcerting. So the editorial says that India, when it wants to play a bigger role on the world stage, then it cannot be seen as a country which supports violence against its minorities. It cannot be seen as a country where rule of law is flouted with impunity with government sanction. So that kind of image should not go out. It further says that the catalogue of religious violence, that means the series of incidents of religious violence, incitement and wrecking of the rule of law in several parts of the country, remains an unsettling fact. So there is no denying that over the past few years, there have been an expert in the cases of religious or religion-oriented violence. And there has been a perception building in the media and in general that the government is not taking effective action to curb this kind of violence. And that has given ammunition to organizations like USCIRF to target India by designating it as a country of particular concern. Further, editorial says that reputation is important for a country's economic development and global standing. That is very true. That how you are perceived in the world, how a country is perceived in the world, it is very important for the country's economic development and global standing, because if a country is seen as stable, peaceful, and where the rule of law is well established, then the global investors, they would like to come and invest their money in that country, and that leads to progress and development. So that is an instrumental perspective. It means that it is a practical way of looking at things. But it says that rule of law and communal harmony are essential for any functioning democracy, and India prides itself in being a democracy, a functioning democracy. So the government of India has to make efforts to make sure that there is rule of law in the country and communal harmony is also maintained, so that we take pride in that we are not just the world's largest democracy, but we are also the world's largest functioning democracy. So these were the key points of the editorial. Now let us look at the key concepts to learn today. We'll look at USCIRF, Nithyayog and NRC. USCIRF, it was established in 1998 when the US government enacted the International Religious Freedom Act, IRFA. And recently USCIRF has downgraded India to the lowest ranking of countries of particular concern. So the ranking above it is special watch list countries. And India has got this ranking for the first time after 2004. And USCIRF is an independent bipartisan US federal government commission dedicated to defending the universal right to freedom of religion or belief abroad. But its power of influencing the US executive is limited. And it is also an advisory body to the US Congress. USCIRF reviews the facts and circumstances of religious freedom violations and makes policy recommendations to the President, the Secretary of State and the US Congress. Its headquarters is at Washington, D.C. Three commissioners of USCIRF, they dissented with the panel's recommendation because they felt that clubbing India with countries like North Korea and China, where there is hardly any religious freedom, is very unjust on India. So it was not a unanimous decision by USCIRF to place India under this category. One more piece of information that one should keep in mind is that Prime Minister Modi, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, and 2002 riots had taken place in Gujarat. So in 2005, USCIRF had censored Mr. Modi, and because of that, the US government had denied visa to Chief Minister Modi at that time. So it does have influence, but not a lot of influence. US is guided by its strategic interests largely in dealing with other countries. Nithy Ayog is very important topic for UPSC exam, and Niti in Nithy Ayog stands for National Institution for Transforming India. It was formed on January 1, 2015. It has replaced Planning Commission. Though it has replaced Planning Commission, but there is a lot of difference in the structure and functioning of Planning Commission and Nithy Ayog. Now, Nithy Ayog's creation has two hubs called Team India Hub and Knowledge and Innovation Hub. The Team India Hub, it leads the participation of Indian states with the central government. And the Knowledge and Innovation Hub, it builds institutions, think tank capabilities. So, Nithy Ayog basically acts as a think tank for the Indian government. Now, Nithy Ayog is based on the 7 pillars of effective governance. This is important and useful for mains answer writing. Pro-people, pro-activity, participation, empowering, inclusion of all, equality, and transparency. Now, what are the objectives of Nithy Ayog? The first objective of Nithy Ayog is to achieve active participation of states in the light of national objectives and to provide a framework, national agenda, and to promote cooperative federalism through well-ordered support initiatives and mechanisms with the states on an uninterrupted basis. Now let us look at Nithy Ayog's composition. So the chairperson of Nithy Ayog is Prime Minister. Vice chairperson is appointed by the Prime Minister. Governing Council includes all the chief ministers of all states and lieutenant governors of union territories. There is also a regional council to address specific regional issues comprising of chief ministers and lieutenant governors chaired by the Prime Minister or his nominee. Now there is also a system of ad hoc membership through which 2 members in ex officio capacity are taken from leading research institutions on a rotational basis. Then there is also ex officio membership, which can be maximum 4 members from the Union Council of Ministers nominated again by the Prime Minister. And there is a Chief Executive Officer CEO of Nithy Ayog appointed by the Prime Minister for a fixed tenure in rank of Secretary to the Government of India. Presently, Mr. Amitabh Kant is the CEO of Nithy Ayog. And special invitees, so experts, specialists with domain knowledge are nominated by the Prime Minister to be special invitees to the Nithy Ayog meetings. So this was all about Nithy Ayog. Now let us look at NRC in brief. This National Register of Citizens 1951 is a register prepared after the conduct of the census of 1951 in respect of each village, showing the houses or holdings in a serial order and indicating against each house or holding the number and names of persons staying therein. And it is only specific to Assam. But there has been a lot of controversy surrounding it when the government went ahead with this Citizenship Amendment Act. And what does this Citizenship Amendment Act do? It fast-tracks citizenship for non-Muslim minorities of 3 countries, Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Pakistan. The government's logic is these 3 countries have a state religion of Islam, and there have been reports of persecution of religious minorities. So these religious minorities have nowhere to go but India, and that is why this law has been made. But there is a lot of criticism for it because it excludes the Muslims. And there is a major issue which this USCIRF has also cited in its report, that CAA plus NRC, this will create problems for the Indian Muslim community. So the objective behind the NRC update is the identification of the illegal migrants who migrated from Bangladesh after the 24th March 1971 to Assam. So basically this NRC exercise has been done in Assam because it is one of the points of the Assam Accord as well. And this illegal migration has been a big issue in Assam. There has been a problem of demographic change in the border areas of Assam due to illegal migration at a very large scale. So that is why this NRC was needed for Assam, and the Assam Accord had this provision that this needs to be done, but it took a long time. Now it also aims at determining whether the citizens applying for their names in the NRC are the genuine citizens of Assam or not. And one of the basic criteria for identification was that the names of the family members of the applicant should be present in the NRC prepared in 1951 or in the electoral rolls up till March 24, 1971. So these dates are important, as in 1951 and this date of 24th March 1971, which is the cutoff date for NRC in Assam. But there have been a lot of issues and challenges faced with this exercise. So this NRC exercise that has been undertaken in Assam has left much to be desired, and this is a very important topic from exam point of view. So now let us look at what kind of questions can be asked in exam from this editorial or related to whatever has been discussed under this editorial. So in prelims, basically a direct question can be asked on USCIRF. What is its mandate? Where is its headquarters? In which category India has been placed by it? So it has been placed in countries of particular concern. And there is another category which is special watch list countries. And there can be questions on Nithyayog as well, about its various objectives, its pillars, etc. And in mains, you can be asked about religious freedom, secularism. Questions have been repeatedly asked in mains about secularism, especially about Indian version of secularism, about the Western concept of secularism. So this is a very important concept, and what are the constitutional provisions which guarantee this secularism in Indian constitution. Then you can be asked about NRC in Assam, about Citizenship Amendment Act, and the challenges and controversies surrounding NRC and CAA, and what is Indian government's point of view, etc. So you should be aware about the pros and cons of these issues, and then finally you should take a very balanced view, and this balanced view will come from adhering to the ideals of the Indian Constitution, that you don't go against democracy, you don't go against secularism, you don't go against all the values that have been enshrined in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. That will allow you to keep a balanced view in your answer writing. So that is very important. So this was all in today's editorial analysis. See you next time with another editorial. Thank you.